right.
All right, teammates. We are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the number one show on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Looking forward to having you back for more and for more and for more and for more. As you guys may not know, this show comes out daily. New episodes every single day. Got me? Now, my regular listeners, you already know how I get down right to the point, and you hit the play button so you know whatever the challenge is, whatever the obstacle is, whatever it is you may be going through in life, we are here to indirectly tell you you are not going through it alone. And as a regular listener, you have been very fortunate to hear a lot about franchising, hear a lot about what franchising is all about. And here we go again. We have another absolute expert on the concept of franchising and what it's all about, what you should be going after, the questions you need to be asking. Everything is going to be covered right here in this episode. So all that being said, John Ostenson, welcome to the show. How are you?
As one, doing great. Appreciate you having me and excited to dig in here.
So let's kind of get started with your background because one of the things that I've learned in the fitness franchising world is people don't just stumble. Like it doesn't happen overnight in terms of figuring out who the right person is, what the right buy-in is, what's going to be the right system in order to get a hold of and all that stuff. All of that is kind of a lifelong process. So I'm very curious to hear about how you kind of grew up. What were the things that you saw growing up that even led you into the world of franchising in the first place?
Yeah. Like so many of your listeners, I spent many years in the corporate world and had a good run. And, there's always this innate desire to build my own empire, to have skin in the game, instead of building someone else's. And, had a good run, but really stumbled into franchising about 8 years ago. Went from a public company to serving as president of Shelf Genie franchise system, which was a large national franchisor, custom pull-out shelving for your kitchens and pantries. And so I
Hmm.
was supporting small business owners, i.e. franchisees all across North America on a daily basis, and really fell in love with the franchise model and just saw how so many diverse different backgrounds could get plugged into business ownership under a shared system that, where we provided support. So long story short, ended up partnering with the founder of Shelf Genie. We spun off. We've invested in franchises too on the franchisee side. So I've been on both sides of the table, and the last 5+ years I've spent helping others get plugged in, and just love being able to help people connect the dots and figure out how they can become business owners, oftentimes in industries that were never even on their radar.
Right. And the thing is too, because like we were saying before we started recording, you went to undergrad in UGA. We're not surprise, surprise, folks. Georgia has something other than a football team. They also do have a business school. They also do bring people out that are really going to be making it as entrepreneurs. Late a couple of years ago now, man, you guys heard from Randy Curran and all that stuff. So I'm curious to hear about what your experience was like at the school level, because again, one of the things that I know for a fact is going through that system can lead you into, like you mentioned, a corporate world where it eventually becomes very monotonous, and there's going to be a desire to kind of build your own thing and stuff like that. So what was the school experience like for you as you're kind of looking back on it now? What sort of advice do you give younger students now that are aspiring to be in business as well?
Yeah, no, and I get to go back and speak in my alma mater on a regular basis. And,
Mhm.
I share with them, I just try to open up their eyes to the world around them, because oftentimes when they think startup, they think of that technology, business and that idea, and they're trying to sit around and think about how do I utilize AI? How can I differentiate myself? And, there's so much value to plugging and playing into a system. But yeah, going back to my younger self, everyone was telling me, hey, make great grades, become the president of this organization and that, build that resume so you can get the job. And, and it's that's the path I went down, and,
Mhm.
eventually went to grad school and, was in consulting, did some international work, checked a lot of boxes, had a great experience, was with organizations that allowed me to grow. But like I said, and I have so many conversations with others with similar backgrounds, they
Mhm.
want to be a business owner. They want, we only live once, right? You want
Right.
to take your future into your own hands and not be at someone else's beck and call. I don't want to have to ask for vacation. I want to be able to control my own destiny. So
It's the
I'd say
same
a
with
lot that was.
and I hate to
Yeah.
pause you there, but I want to make sure I'm emphasizing this to the listeners is that shiny object syndrome. When you're leaving college, I guess what 100K or even 80K,
Mhm.
sounds like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But as we're recording this now, there are hurricanes, there are just natural disasters, there are things that are happening in life that you need to be having money stacked away for, where you just never know. And it's so important that regardless of whether you go and be a full-fledged entrepreneur or you decide, hey, I'm going to take the check that I'm getting, I'm going to make sure I'm putting stuff aside, the responsibility is on you to make sure you're prepared for these things. And this is something you have to learn through shared experiences, through conversations like this, and making sure I'm doing my due diligence, because I just never know what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, and if you work hard, I mean, and some people shouldn't be business owners. I won't paint that picture. I think a lot of people have it in them, but some people
Absolutely.
shouldn't. And for me, I had a great run in the corporate world. I was able to save up the 401ks and get some stock equity, here and there with some of the larger companies, and that positioned me so that when I did make that jump into entrepreneurship,
Right.
I had a longer runway. And so I think there's a time and season for everyone. Some people, it's straight out of the gate, straight out of school. I'd say for the majority of people, get out there, learn some skill sets, save some money to your point, and
Mhm.
then make that jump when the right opportunity approaches.
Right. All right. So as you transition into, kind of teaching people how to run a franchise, and I can't remember the coach's name. I'm blanking on his name now, but I think he said it in the best way. He said, he asked the question, did you pay for a franchise or did you just pay to have another job? All right. And this was actually when I was working as a trainer at a 9-round kickboxing and fitness franchise.
Yeah.
And that specific gym has gone out of business. And I would say it all the time, if the franchisor, who was Shannon and Heather, if they would see this franchisee on a daily basis, he would have been let go. Like
Mm.
there's certain, when you buy into a franchise, there's some people who just aren't built to have that responsibility. And I ask you that because there's a lot of people who would pay for it. How do you advise them to make sure they're making the right decisions, by whether it's a business owner that's trying to take their business franchise, or it's somebody who was in your situation that's working in the corporate world and say, okay, I'm going to just take the risk. I'm going to take this money and pay for it. How do you advise them to go to maneuver about it? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, it's a very calculated risk. I mean, nothing's a sure thing, but when you look at the success rates, they are so much higher in franchising. Now, franchising is just like any industry. There are good players and there are ones that are not as strong. And that's where we come in to help our clients identify the top 8 to 10 opportunities that are available in their market with what we would consider strong franchisors. You want to have a leadership team that has been there, done that. You've got to have the profit model, the competitive advantages. It's
Mm-hmm.
important to understand during that exploration process, what are current owners in their system, other franchisees saying about their experience, and you can use them as a sounding board. So the goal is really to go in eyes wide open so that, again, you're making a calculated risk when you make that jump. But no, we hold our clients' hands through the process. It's really interesting. To your point about buying a job, about half of our clients make the jump to running the business full time themselves,
Mm-hmm.
oftentimes with the goal of eventually replacing themselves and moving on to the next thing and building that portfolio. That's so common. We have so many clients that have done that. The other half say, hey, we want to put a manager in place day one to run the business. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to oversee them, but it's going to be a manage the manager or executive approach. Some call it semi-passive. I don't think anything is passive. I like to call it semi-involved, because you're
Right.
still going to be very involved, and it
Right.
really
I've
comes
seen
down
a
to having
lot
a
of
strong.
that. I've seen a lot of that too.
Yeah, and a lot of franchise models allow for that. And if you've got a strong franchisor on the sideline and a great operator that's highly incentivized running the business,
Mm-hmm.
that franchisor can carry a lot of the support water for you on a day-to-day basis, so you can keep that corporate job, so you can continue to run your other business, let's say.
Right. All right. So, what are some examples, though, of different franchises? Because this is something that I've actually had to educate myself on. And the title of your book is Non-Food Franchising. And when you hear it, you think of the McDonald's, the Wendy's, the stuff that you normally see on commercials. But there are actually, lawn mowing companies, there are fencing companies, there are people driving trucks. In fact, there was one guy that I used to work with very closely. He ran a roofing company, and I was telling him, "Yeah, I saw your truck on the road." He goes, "He wasn't speeding, was he?" All right, I can't get in trouble. So, there's so many, and I didn't realize that he was actually running a franchise, and me and him, having this conversation at a football game. So, when it comes to the types of franchise and all the ones out there, can you speak on what that process has been like? Because I'm sure it's helped you in your growth and the kind of people that you're able to serve.
Yeah, we work with over 600 companies. They're in expansion mode, looking to grow into new markets. And
Right.
it's everything from home and property services, think dumpsters, insulation,
Sure.
gutters, flooring, non-sexy, like you said, roofing, so many different niches, to things that are like health and wellness. I mean, that's never been more top of mind. And that's everything from men's health, like testosterone replacement and hormone replacement, to certainly some fitness, to recovery modalities, to mental health, all different types. It's categories like kids, whether it be youth soccer or daycares, to pets,
Like
pet grooming,
I-9, I
pet
think is
boarding.
another one. I-9.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. To things like senior care, in-home care, to other senior support type services. So I'd say the general theme that we see out there is what is an understandable cash flowing business that people will always spend on. And they're always going to spend, regardless of the economy, on the things they care about: their kids, their pets, their aging parents, their health.
Hmm.
So I'd say that's the general theme. I jokingly say that non-sexy is the new sexy when it comes to business ownership, because it's all these different niches that may not be sexy, but they cash flow.
Right. And the thing is, and what I've also discovered too is, and I'd love for you to speak on this as well, is when you're talking about franchising, so much of it is not about the actual product. So much of it is actually about the system. So much of it is, can you align a system that can be duplicated and duplicated and duplicated and duplicated? If you really think about it, you don't care the difference between a McDonald's burger and a Wendy's burger. They really don't taste that different. I'm sure there's a lot of little things that go into it, but if you're just hungry, you're going to go to whatever's open, and you're going to go whatever system, whatever hours open, however it works. So speak to a little bit about when people come in and they may think that they may have a great product, or they may be buying into something because the product is great. Do you deter them in a certain way? Do you, maybe speak to them about, look, product is great, but system is better. And, how do you ethically move forward with, you don't want to be selling bullshit to people. How do you navigate that part of it?
Yeah, no, the system absolutely has to be there. It's got to be a proven franchisor. And maybe it's an emerging brand where they've got deep industry experience, but they haven't been a franchising long. I want to see that they brought in franchise veterans around them on that leadership team,
Oh.
people that have been there, done that, supported successful franchisees. It's so important. No, everyone's different. I've talked to clients just this morning that said, "Hey, I don't care what kind of widget, service I'm providing or product. It's all about the numbers." I've got others to say, "Hey, the numbers are important. We got to check that box, but we really want to get back to the community, or we really see a need that we want to lean into. We want to feel good about, obviously you want to feel good about the service, but has to be one that we really are passionate about." So everyone's different on that continuum, but I'd say that to your point, the system is so important. People ask me, what will it take to be a successful franchisee? And it's really two things. It's one, being good with people, whether that be someone that people want to work for, someone people want to work with. I mean, that's just business 101. But
Right.
then secondly, it's willingness to follow the system. You've got to have some degree of humility to say, "Hey, I'm going to come into this new industry oftentimes, and I'm not going to pretend to be the smartest guy in the room. I'm going to follow. There's a reason why I bought into a franchise. I'm going to follow the system." When I was at Shelf Genie and I saw 100 owners across North America with different backgrounds running the same business day in, day out,
Mhm.
those were the two characteristics that were most important. And it sounds cliche, but those that were following the system the closest were our top franchisees.
And I'm glad you said that, because now I really have to ask this, because me being a sports guy and you also being very familiar with football, this entire concept that I've built and the entire just my way of thinking, and stems from playing college football, coaching it, being around it, and really not knowing until later on in life that the NFL is a 501(c)(3). It's actually a nonprofit. However, they're putting out there, we have different franchises. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's some confusion there, especially when you're talking about sports people who are used to going out and they're either, you either win or you lost. Now in business, you can take a deal where you get a 500,000 and then the other one gets 400,000. Both of you are happy. They could be two winners. So can you speak to a little bit about how, when you're talking about maybe someone who's doing something that's a nonprofit, and how they're still able to utilize franchise systems to make it work the way, obviously, I mean, everyone can't be the NFL, but there's ways in which you can take something that was built to have kind of a nonprofit feel, but then you implement a franchise system and all of a sudden, obviously it's a big profit, when you look at how the NFL is able to do their thing.
Yeah, no, it's your point. The NFL, you've got franchises competing against each other, right?
Mhm.
In a way. So,
Indirect,
so you
not
say it's a
indirect, direct, right. Mhm.
right. So it's a pseudo shared system, pseudo not. One of the things I love about franchising, the world that we operate in, is those franchisees are operating the same system, but in different markets. and they're supporting each other. The better the one does, the better for the other ones because it supports the brand, right? And so it's kind
Very
of
true.
not only is that not a scarcity mentality, but it's also a rising tide raises all ships. And some of the best innovation comes from franchisees coming up with new ideas, testing new things, and then sharing with the overall franchise system. So it really can create this mastermind group of others that are living the same thing day in, day out,
Yeah.
and those shared experiences. Really, we talk about franchising. You're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And that's not just you have a coach, to use your analogy, on the
Yeah.
sidelines in the franchisor, but you do have this community of other franchisees. So, no, we do see nonprofits that will expand in franchise-like models, to your point, where if you can incentivize people that know their local markets, that have a passion, I'd say in the nonprofit world, passion's probably a little more important, right? But
Right.
they've got the relationships and can go deep in their local communities. It's such a better way to scale and expand than just having, you know, sales reps, let's say, on your team.
Yeah, and I'm glad you clarified that for not only me, but also for the listeners as well. Because one of the things I did actually write about in my latest book, Transferring D1, is how, look, when I was young, there was zero NFL teams in LA. But with the market, with the way business works, there's three now, three. And an advocate, one of the advocates for building SoFi Stadium was the owner, Jerry Jones, who, again, you would think he's a competitor and he wants the best stadium, but it's not like that. There's still some support amongst, people who are also owning it and going through the same thing. And to me, it's just a fascinating model whenever
Mhm.
someone is trying to get into business because you're asking the right questions. Are you going to get support doing this? Are you going to deal with this? Again, one of the things that I saw in the gym I just mentioned, he would complain about getting no support. He would complain all the time about, okay, the person at top, they don't even support their own gyms. If the numbers aren't there, they're just like, hey, we got your $500,000 or whatever it was to buy in the franchise. Go on about your business. And sometimes that's how it will work. I mean, that's their opinion, and everything is going to be interpreted on that. But I do want to get back to your business a little bit. And when it comes to the growth and the development, it'll probably be a contradiction if I didn't ask you, I didn't give you an opportunity to talk about how you are able to establish a system to where you can be replaced, whether it's something that somebody could come in and teach this system. How exactly does your business work and how is it able to scale and things like that?
Yeah, I'm essentially a real estate broker, but for franchises. And so you think about a real estate broker, and they can't scale themselves without building out a team. And so I do
Yeah.
have a very small team. I keep it lean. I just came back from a franchise conference last week. Multiple people approached me about jumping on board at FranBridge, and right now I'm keeping it lean intentionally, and that served me well. I mean, I was still able to grow it to being number 584 on the Inc. 5000 this past year on the list, which I'm really proud of. And so
That's a
we've
big
got
deal. That's a big deal.
yeah, and for me, trust is very important, and my clients put trust in me. I will put trust in other people, but it takes me a lot of time. If the responsibility I'm giving them is to lead people into making franchise purchases, that's a lot of responsibility. And so, yeah, I've been very methodical in the growth, and there are constraint points. I am a constraint in the business. I talk to other business owners, like from Entrepreneurs Organization. They say, "Well, how are you going to scale this 10x?" I may not scale it 10x, but I really love what I do. It does, I do well financially, and allows me to invest in franchises and do other,
Right,
make
right,
other
right.
investments too. So it's a
Well,
little different.
that's what I'm saying. You actually beat me to my next point because it kind of seems like that would be the natural fit. Hey, I know these franchises so well, and it would seem like it'd be a natural sense transition for you to go and invest in certain franchises
Exactly.
too. So now way you actually have some stability as well.
Yeah, and I can't do it all, and I certainly don't have all the time. But no, I'm invested in three different franchises on the franchisee front. I'm invested in a franchisor as well, where I'm a minority shareholder there, and I've been able to get out there and promote a business called Art of Drawers, which we're really excited about. We just expanded to our 56th territory with that one today.
Yes.
So I love.
Congratulations.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So, I don't know that my business will ever be 10x, but I'm not going for growth at all cost. For me, it's all about quality rather than quantity. I mean, I still am able to help hundreds of clients every year, but I don't know that that needs to be tens of thousands. I don't know if our quality would be the same if I did.
Yes, and again, another incredible point for anybody that's looking for growth, anybody that's looking to create a career, anybody that is really wanting to do something that they can believe in. That is the big thing about franchising. You have got to believe in your system and believe in what you're doing every single day. And I've worked for a ton of them, whether it was Orange Theory, whether it was Town Sports International, whether it was LA Fitness, all of them said the same thing. What you guys do for people, what you guys go and help people do, getting them in shape, all that kind of stuff, you got to really believe in it. All right. You don't, I mean, listen, no, there's no gym that has the best weight rack set or whatever it is. They are joining because of the people. All right. And, when you mention being a franchisor, what are the requirements that you're looking for in potential investments? What are the things that they need to be having so you're able to say, okay, this is something I can move forward with?
So I'm sorry, from a franchisor standpoint or
Yeah, yeah, from your
prospective
invest,
franchisor?
like when you mentioned becoming, because that's, it creates stability for you. You've obviously done your research. People aren't going to be able to sell you bullshit because it's like, look, you can't just tell me this is going to be a great franchise without me doing my research. So when it comes to what makes it so you're going to make your investment, what's the criteria that you look for?
It comes down to the leadership team puts so much weight on that and their backgrounds. As I mentioned earlier, the financial model's got to be there. It's got to be have a why in the market, from a competitive advantage standpoint, whether it be a barrier to entry or just something unique about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to hear from the current owners in the system. I mean, no one's going to give you feedback like the people that are currently running the business day to day. So,
Mm-hmm.
talking to other franchisees and yeah, I'm fortunate because I've got a pretty extensive network within the franchise world. I was with a couple of hundred franchise brands just last week at a conference, and got to interact with them, hear the latest about what's going on behind the scenes with each of them. The challenge for a lot of people out there is if you just start Googling franchises, there's so much noise, and every company's trying to put their best foot forward.
Yeah.
Even the top 100 franchise list, which you'll see from different publications, companies oftentimes are paying to be on that list. So it's a PR move. So again, there's just a lot of noise, and that's where we help with our relationships and understanding and experience, help clients see behind the curtain to understand what the top opportunities are in their market for them.
Yeah, you beat me right to it, man. Because as you were talking, I was gonna ask you how online and the internet and everything is affecting the relationship aspect of the business. And you had already mentioned kind of speaking to your students about when they say franchise, they think everything is tech and this and that. Can you just kind of clarify that and kind of speak on number one, the importance of relationships, and then how tech and how all this online noise is affecting the way people go about doing this in the first place?
Yeah, if you're going to make a huge financial investment, let's say, in private equity, you're probably going to have a financial advisor that's, giving you feedback and telling you
Right.
based on their experience. They review a lot of deals and why this deal's better than others, right? You're not just going to go at it blind. Same thing with buying a house. Typically, you'd have a real estate in a new city. It's going to be a real estate agent that's been there and knows the market and
Mhm.
maybe even has some off-market deals, right? They understand what's going on.
Yes.
Um, and such. So yeah, I'd say it's the same kind of role here that we play. Our clients never pay us a nickel. We simply get a referral fee from the
Oh.
company on the back end. So if
Mhm.
someone wanted to buy a franchise and they go directly to the franchise, or if they go through us as their advisor, they're going to pay the same franchise fee. So it's a beautiful model where I'm never selling. I get to consult, and if a placement happens and we do our job well, we get a referral fee from the brand on the back end.
Now that's confidence, folks. That is confidence. If I like, that is when you know your shit and hey, I'm going to be good enough to get this deal for you. I won't take any money on the back end. We'll just take our fee when you're actually happy. And it's the truth about life and in business. You have to fight. You have to really work hard to meet those people, that middleman who really does care about the clients. And it doesn't happen often. You're not going to just roll over and it just appears. You have to work very, very hard when it comes to finding the people that can serve as that relationship builder. So, all that being said, I do want to be very respectful of your time. Can you just tell people a little bit about what's next for the company, what you see? You sort of already mentioned it, but I'll give you the opportunity to speak on that a little bit more if you'd like to.
Yeah, yeah. We've had great growth, and that's a result of being able to help a lot of people get into franchising and become business owners, oftentimes for the first time. We get our validation when they come back and buy additional locations, or they
Yes,
come back,
sir.
which
Yes, sir. Now we
we
get
had
that lifetime. Yeah.
we had
Reoccurring money,
we had
baby.
multiple clients do that just last week. We've had clients come back and buy additional brands. I mean, that's what gets us excited. And probably half of our business is referrals. So I mean, nothing speaks louder. But would love to share a copy of our book, Non-Food Franchising, free digital downloads with all of your listeners. So
Mhm.
yeah, come out to our website, franbridgeconsulting.com, FRAN bridgeconsulting.com. Share your email address. We'll reach out with links to download our book. And certainly, if you want to buy it online, we've sold thousands of copies. All the proceeds go to a great nonprofit that we support, Hope International. But yeah, happy to share free copies if you reach out.
Yes, and that will all be included in the show notes as well. So the final thing that I do to close out all the shows, John, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are back in the corporate world. You're dreading having to go to work. The money's okay, but you're dreading have to be there. Someone's telling you when to go take a vacation, but you don't want to do it there. All that. Pretend that John has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we will officially close.
Yeah, hang in there, man. There's light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, 8 years ago when I got a taste of this, and granted, we have challenges. I mean, business owners, you have challenges.
Yeah.
I would trade those challenges for these challenges all day and night, and I've never once looked back. Absolutely love working for myself. I'm the hardest boss I've ever had. I'm working hard, but I
Yeah.
love it.
Yes, yes, yes. Hey, listen, again, and the reason I close out the show with all that is because I want you guys to understand, like I said at the beginning, whatever the obstacle is, whatever the challenge is, whatever it is you're going through, you're not going through it alone. We're here to indirectly tell you we're here for you. Just keep chopping wood. Keep chopping wood. To end off a football analogy, just keep chopping wood. All right. All that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.